of things that you need in order for you to persuade your audience. So we have the ethos, the pathos, and the logos. So these are modes of persuasion used to convince audiences. They are also referred to as the three artistic proofs that Aristotle coined, and they are all represented by Greek words. So we have to definitely understand the meaning of those Greek words. You have to remember. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so for this one, the ethos or the ethical appeal, which means to convince an audience of the author's credibility or character. So ethos is a Greek word for character. Now we have an example here. We are going to look into the credibility and the character of the person. Now, as a doctor, I am qualified to tell you that this course of treatment will likely generate the best results. For this one, can we believe a doctor to be giving an advice on which kind of course or treatment that would likely generate the best results for a patient? Shall we believe a doctor? Yes, definitely. So he has the credibility because nobody else can give a better advice other than a doctor. Not a teacher, not a politician, not an accountant, not an engineer, but a doctor has the credibility and is qualified to tell you what course or treatment is best for a patient. So for this one, it is an ethos. So for pathos, or the emotional appeal, which means to persuade an audience by appealing to their emotions. So the words empathy or empathetic are derived from pathos. An example, if we don't move soon, we're all going to die. Can't you see how dangerous it would be to stay? Now for this one, what kind of emotion does it evoke? It evoked the emotion of fear. Okay? And if you are afraid to die, then you will be convinced to move soon. And this is one way you can convince your audience. If you want them to do something, you have to use the emotional appeal or the pathos. Next is the logos or the appeal to logic, which means to convince an audience by the use of logic, reason, or proof. We're going to look into the facts, statistical data, and research. The word logic is derived from the word logos. Now, here's an example. A recent study confirmed that preschoolers who watch an average of 28 hours of television in a week can suffer from speech delay. Can we refute this? According to a study, it's a recent study, well updated, and it has been confirmed that those children who watch an average of 28 hours of television a week can suffer from speech delay. Now, is it trying to evoke an emotion, or is it trying to build up a credibility of a person, or is it trying to give you a factual statement? So it's more in giving a factual statement because it's already been studied. So we can say this is logos. Now, in order to persuade your audience, the proper use of ethos, pathos, and logos is necessary. It's very important. These three are the ingredients to convincing and persuading your audience of what you want them to believe and what you want them to do. Now let's try these examples. You will never be satisfied in life if you don't seize this opportunity. Do you want to live the rest of your years yearning to know what would have happened if you just jumped when you had the chance? For this one, is it trying to evoke an emotion? Is it trying to build the credibility of a person, or is it trying to give a factual information? You will never be satisfied. Okay? From the word never be satisfied, what comes to your mind? And then, do you want to live the rest of your years yearning to know what would have happened if you just jumped when you had the chance? What kind of emotion does it evoke? It's trying to evoke the emotion of regret. It's like saying, if you don't jump now, then you don't know what's going to happen or what could have happened. You won't be satisfied. So there is an emotion there that you don't want to be regretful when time comes. So you are going to jump while you still have the chance. So this one, the answer is pathos. How about this one? Veterinarian says that a German Shepherd are the perfect match for people with active lifestyles. Is it trying to evoke an emotion, or is it just trying to make a logical statement by giving a proof or evidence? So for this one, we are referring to a veterinarian who is qualified to say that a German Shepherd is a perfect match for people with active lifestyles. Other professions like teachers, engineers, accountants can also say the same statement, but they are not as qualified as a veterinarian. So this one is definitely an ethos. We're talking about the credibility of a person. Now, another example, if you're still unsure, please consider that my advanced degree and field of work speak for themselves. This one doesn't evoke an emotion, so we are going to eliminate pathos from the choices. We only have two choices left, which is the ethos and the logos. So is it trying to build the credibility of a person, or is it just stating a factual information? So it's more on building the credibility of a person. Please consider that my advanced degree and field of work speak for themselves. Okay, so this one is ethos. He is a forensics and ballistics expert for the federal government. If anyone's qualified to determine the murder weapon, it's him. Okay, so let me just correct something here. There should be anyone's. Okay. Now, is it trying to evoke an emotion? Definitely not. Is it trying to build the credibility of a person? Yes, by saying he's a forensics and ballistics, he's an expert. So he has the right to say something. He is qualified to determine the murder weapon. Okay? Nobody else can determine the murder weapon but a forensics and ballistics. As I've mentioned earlier, a teacher, a boxer, an engineer is not qualified. Only a forensics and ballistics is qualified to determine the murder weapon. Next, research compiled by analysts from NASA, as well as organizations from 5 other nations with space programs suggests that a moon colony is viable with international support. Let me just correct something here. This one should be letter V as in Victor, and then T with the letter T. Okay. So for this one, is it trying to build the credibility of a person? Are we talking about a person here, or are we talking about a research? Are we, is there any emotion that's evoked from you? And is it trying to state a factual information? So for this one, what's your answer? Are we referring to a person? Definitely not. We are referring to the research. We are talking about the research here, compiled by the NASA people and 5 other organizations in the nations. So definitely this one is logos. This is not ethos because we are not building a credibility of a person here. Next, you'll make the right decision because you have something that not many people do. You have a heart. Okay? This one is kind of overlapping. It's overlapping between ethos and pathos. Okay, but let's read again the statement. You'll make the right decision because you have something that not many people do. You have heart, or you have a heart. So is it more on evoking an emotion? Did it evoke an emotion from you? Somehow, yes, because you'll be touched someone saying you have the heart, right? What about building a credibility? Do you sound credible enough if someone will say you have a heart? Yes, can be. So this is an overlap of ethos and pathos. So this one, the correct answer is both.